hour, we've discussed this. Craig, you even brought this up yesterday with the numbers of Colorado. Fox noon, big noon kickoff, put this out. I really don't understand what all this means, but apparently it's a pretty big deal because they put it out. 2.6 billion impressions, 51,000 mentions, 80 million media value. That game with both Colorado and UCF, and, of course, their big noon kickoff show on that Saturday morning.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, it's a great thing for Fox. I mean, that's great that they've got some media attention. I don't really get too in-depth and in love with people's self-promotion graphics as far as their impressions and all these types of things. That's not really my bag, but for a big network, that's something you obviously want to flaunt. And Colorado is a team that people are watching. I think that's pretty clear based on the TV ratings. And so Fox is trumpeting that just like ESPN trumpets their SEC broadcasts and, whatever else they feel like they need to put out there and be happy about. So certainly I'd imagine Fox is thrilled with how Colorado is playing and the fact that they are more interesting when they're winning, and they've been able to outlast their interest levels from last year because they've taken this into a second month and look like they could take it into maybe a third month as well. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. They're the team that people love to hate or love to love, and I think there's definitely both of those parties in play, and I think there's a lot of people like me who see the benefit for the Big 12. I'm not rooting against them. I actually defended them early in the season when it was very popular for a lot of people, especially nationally, just dump all over them after one or two games. You've seen a lot of backtracking right now. So good for Dion and the Buffaloes, and I'm sure people are going to stay glued in as long as they're staying competitive.
Yeah, I was one of those people who was dumping on them, for sure. I thought that they were, after watching the North Dakota State game where I came away unimpressed with their physicality, and the Nebraska game in which they had no physicality, I thought there's no way that this team can withstand a full season of this. And since that moment, they've turned it right around and won 3 games in a row. So I'm happy to eat crow on this when I'm wrong, because clearly they're getting better. But after that Nebraska game, it looks like this is a team that's not getting better, that's regressed, and had not addressed the things that were problems a year ago. They were just going, look, we've got a bunch of athletes, we'll win it that way. But it appears that they are committing to fixing those little things.
I think the coaching staff deserves a lot of credit. Position coaches deserve credit, the coordinators, Dion, and, of course, the players as well. In the Nebraska game, let's not forget now, that was a game that Nebraska circled probably as soon as they knew the date, because Colorado humiliated them in Boulder the year before with every way possible to win a game. So that was kind of a game that they circled before the year started. There are 2 games tonight, by the way. College football doubleheader. In a way, ESPN2 has Texas State and Troy, 5 o'clock, and then at 7 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, you have Sam Houston State, and also who will be the newest member of the Mountain West Conference in a couple of years, UTEP and the Miners. So a couple of games. This is the start of that 50-plus days in a row where there's at least a college game and or an NFL game that is on for us to watch it in many days, many games. So I know that he's not in college football. He's now coaching the Raiders. He has his own problems with Vegas and that football team, including Devontae Adams in his future. But this Antonio Pierce, 8-year show cause penalty from the NCAA for his involvement in those recruiting violations at Arizona State under head coach Herm Edwards. We know that, I guess, almost all that staff is gone. Kenny Dillingham is in charge now, but 8-year show cause penalty for whatever Antonio Pierce, which was a lot when it comes to violations, visits, recruiting, etc. He's not going to play or coach college football again, you don't think. But that was a note that Max Olson had earlier today.
I think the most interesting thing is part of these violations are that he took a recruit's parents to a strip club. Kind of a weird thing to throw into a recruiting trip.
Yeah, well, according to Chris Cartman, took recruits to a local gun range, had staff drive recruits to a local bowling alley and arcade. He and Others took recruits' parents to a strip club with the recruiting staff, as you mentioned there. So, they were all over the place having a whole hell of a lot of fun, apparently, but really bad decision-making in the process. And 8-year show cause, I think, really hammers that home and realize that they're going to a strip club during COVID times is what they would have been doing.
That's where I'd want to go.
So,
right?
real concerned about it. The virus are going to the strip club of all places. But anyways, who cares about that? It's just funny to tack onto the.
It's okay.
The
dancers
story.
were masked up, so
yeah, it's just a nice little other note to it.
It's fine.
That was the only thing they were wearing. 67 pages, Craig. You're right. Also, what he did was he tried to. I guess you could say it a lot of different ways, but he was trying to lead with false and misleading information during what was the investigation.
They just basically bucked COVID rules. They bucked recruiting rules. They bucked every rule. Herm Edwards was aloof, and I don't think he even cared that much because apparently he wasn't even involved in one of the hires that they made, had not even met or interviewed the receivers coach that they hired until after Antonio Pierce had hired him, according to one passage there. So really, really big CEO stuff there from Herm Edwards. I never disliked the guy per se, but I never was in love with him. Like a guy we used to co-host the show with, thought he was great, and I just didn't understand why. And I think I kind of understand why, but it's like, you know what I'm saying.
I talked to him about it today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think that was always kind of a bomb waiting to go off, but even way worse than I ever expected because I didn't think that they would just so blatantly just disregard the rules, basically. And what good did it really do them? Honestly, it did Arizona State no good at all, and they're in a much better place with Kenny Dillingham, that's for sure.
Well, they've now moved on, and they're trying to move on, and of course they have cleaned up everything. I want to say this, and I hope that Garrett gets this. Former LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels' mother was a major part of this investigation.
It happens.
But when he does play well as former Arizona State quarterback, when it doesn't involve the recruiting issues. This is the note. Paul sent this. Sawyer Robertson, the Baylor offense, there's no question there's frustration. Who knows? Craig, of course, Monday really kind of summed up the feeling of most everybody. And others have done that, whether it's on Twitter or whether it's in message boards or even on this show and other particular shows. That people are they want to win. They just want to win a game. I say we as in Baylor wants to win a game. Sawyer Robertson has been a bright spot. Now, he threw the deadly pick at the end of the game when they still had a chance to maybe pull that game off. But the second highest QBR rating in the Big 12 at 83.3. We know some of the quarterbacks even not have enough games or snaps, or some aren't playing at the level. But he has played well since he took over for DeQuan Finn.
Yeah, look, they don't have a problem at quarterback right now, which is something they did have for a couple years. Sawyer Robertson's playing well, which highlights the fact that they're not doing the little things that they need to do to win games. That if you've got the second highest QB rating in the Big 12 right now, you're squandering a good thing, clearly. Mm-hmm. And that to me, while that's a good thing, that's the sign of trouble to me, that you have a guy at the most important position who's actually doing well, but it doesn't matter because you're doing a lot of other things poorly.
Yeah, he's been really solid. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but he's been certainly the least of their problems. I think when the defense has played well, that's when they're really showcasing their best. But I think right behind that is Sawyer Robertson's play. There's no running backs that pop off the page because Bryson Washington hasn't been able to really hit a stride, and none of the others have come close to getting any type of a rhythm or impact on a consistent basis. The receivers, there's guys that poke their heads up every once in a while, but none of them are consistent. The tight ends are a non-factor. So you look at over the defensive side, and as a collective, there's things to like there. But, yeah, it's the defense. Not in the first quarter against BYU, though. But, for the rest of that game, basically, and Sawyer Robertson is what kept you in that. And then, various other guys making plays at certain times. But they don't have a lot of star power. He's probably as close as they come to that. Having said that, Those were two really bad picks last week. I mean, the slow motion one, look, it's slow motion, so I'm not putting too much stock in that because, yeah, it's easy for me to see slow motion. But when you look at, like, the wall of arm that he was throwing directly into, I know it's bang, bang, but it's like, dang, how'd you not see that? Okay, whatever. It was very quick, and I'm certainly not capable of making that decision, so that's going to happen. You're going to get a ball batted down. But it was like not even close where you were throwing the ball. Like, it had no chance to go past the guy. So anyways, fine. Let's just chalk that up to bang, bang, and it happened. Well, then what happened on the second interception, technically it was his fault, but it was a great call by BYU apparently, that they had called something that they had never called in the course of that game until that point. They had one of their assistants who just had a really good idea and had seen what Baylor was doing and thought that this particular call would be a way to seal this game. And sure enough, they have the defensive back, show a different look, and he goes over there when Sawyer's, I guess, not seeing him or expecting him, and basically throws it right to him. And clearly did not see him, that's for sure. And that ends the game right there. So he got fooled. The offense got fooled on that. Those are the types of things that hopefully get better with more experience. But, yeah, those two plays were, especially that second one, the crux of that game and why you ultimately weren't able to try and finish and get a big win at home. So areas for improvement, but he's been really, really good.
If you wanted to give, and you could list off 10 or 12 things, but what are the top 3 problems? If you were to say, fix this, this, and this.
Offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line.
I'll put it in I'll say guard, tackle, and center.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, that's the 3 biggest.
In no particular order.
Haven't they pass protected pretty well?
I mean, I guess.
It's not even about pass protection. It's about the fact you can't run the football at all.
I'm
and
not,
it makes you so one-dimensional.
Not disagreeing with the offensive line. I'm just saying, but they have seemed that's one thing they've done better, but you can't run the ball.
Yeah. Like, so it's like it's great. You can do one thing, but it doesn't add up to anything good ultimately because you can't do the other thing. So, yeah, I mean, if we're looking to put a spin on it and say, like, they've been really good at this. They've been okay to good, I guess, at pass blocking. A lot of good it's done them.
Yeah.
I mean, what good has it done in Big 12 play? Not one iota. So, yeah, good luck. Yeah, I hope you are good at pass blocking because that's all you're going to probably be doing this weekend because you're probably not going to be able to run the ball again. And so it's going to be all about passing. So, that puts more stress on Sawyer Robertson to have to make throws because he's got to basically feel like he's doing it all himself sometimes because they don't have a rushing attack that can carry its own weight right now. So, yeah, I think the biggest problems are on the O-line, and they don't have an alpha at wide receiver. They've got a couple guys who I think can sniff that air, but they're not consistently good enough to be that dude. If you had Ketron Jackson actually turn into that guy, which he's clearly not going to at this stage in his career, that's fine. He has the tools for it, but he's just not that guy, it seems like, mentally or emotionally or physically. Then you could have him dressed up with a Monterey Baldwin and Ashton Hawkins, and that'd be a pretty damn good wide receiver core. But they don't have, like, the big receiver, that's going to go get the jump ball. And they try to go to Ketron in those situations, and it's either always incomplete or he draws a penalty, and that's cool. But when you can't punch it in the end zone, like, you need those guys to make those catches in those moments. And so, yeah, I mean, I think you could be better there. You could be better in some places, but certainly if you're starting, center, guard, tackle, that's where you would like to be better on this football team.
You guys know how I now have become Mr. Statistic and Trends and Analytics. Baylor is actually ranked 72nd in the country in sacks allowed. So not bad out of 131. It's still
they're in
too
the
many.
middle.
That's it. It may be a little bit past the middle, but
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I had evidence. And, again, like in Shador's case, Colorado had 8 in one game, and then all of a sudden they've kind of tightened that up a little bit. So Brady Cook is the quarterback at Missouri. I saw this from Carter Corrales, who covers A&M. Mike Elko on his radio show saying that Brady Cook's comments, it has been interesting that we've had people call out Kyle Field a little bit. I heard their quarterback say today that it's louder in practice than it is at Kyle Field. To me, that's a challenge to the 12th man. Now, I did not have time to look up whether or not even Brady Cook said that, or this is Mike Elko stoking the fire. Whether he does or not, that place is going to be packed. It's a big game against a highly ranked team, the only game in the country with 2 ranked teams. But I don't think it's Brady Cook's not that. He's not going to say that, but maybe he was.
Well, how about we read the exact quote?
Huh?
How about we read the exact quote of what he said?
Okay, go ahead.
at some point it can only get so loud. In my opinion, the noise at practice is actually louder. They put these big speakers pretty much 2 feet right behind me. You can't hear anything. It's loud. At stadiums, it's loud, but it's like a surrounding, more distant loud.
That's
in no way does he talk about Kyle Field directly or just about Kyle Field alone in that. So, great job, headline guys. You got your attention, but yeah, clearly that wasn't what it was made out to be.
And look, if that fires up the Aggie crowd to make
it's
it
college
louder,
football. They'll look at anything. The custodian said that Kyle Field wasn't loud enough. You see him in a press conference going, "They don't believe in us." Like that's
That's Kirby Smart saying,
yeah,
no one believed in us.
Yeah, we're 30-point favorites, and we've been favored in every game, but nobody believes in us. Like, it's that kind of a thing. So these coaches, they got rabbit ears, and they got all their assistants watching all the press conferences from the opposing team, and they're looking for anything like that. So they got a little half a sentence that looked like it might be about Kyle Field, and they took that and obviously are using as motivation, and that's what every staff does with any kind of bulletin board material they can grab. Anytime you ask a coach, did you use this or that as bulletin board material, 99.9% of the time the answer is yes in some capacity. So I think that just goes with the territory and clearly Elko taking what he can get to try and pump his team up. And, hey, I hope that it does pump A&M up. Get Missouri out of there. I don't believe in them where they are ranked currently. I don't think they've played anybody. And so this is a big test for them, and if they pass it, it's not the biggest test, obviously, but if they do go in there and they get a win, then I'll prop them up a bit more. But right now, I feel like they're getting a lot of that SEC weight behind their ranking right now, more so than how actually good they are.
This would be a win that would look good because, again, A&M's only lost to Notre Dame this year, and they only lost to Notre Dame by a score. So, that was a close game the whole time.
This is what will happen. If A&M wins, they'll jump 10 spots, and Missouri will drop 2 or 3. 3 teams in the country, by the way, have not a lot of sack. Army, not a surprise. But I saw them chunking it around the other day.
Yeah. Well, it's still when you only throw
7 times
through 4 games.
Is Georgia Tech running the bone again like they used to?
No.
Okay.
No.
They have not a lot of sack, and neither has New Mexico, the Lobos. Oklahoma State has allowed 1, by the way. And also, there's another academy. Air Force has allowed 2, even though they don't throw the ball much either. This is an interesting note. The college football film room. We have discussed Ashton Gente, and we've talked about many of the running backs around college football. Here are the leaders in the FBS and college football who have broken or caused more missed tackles per 20 carries. Anthony Tyus III. Right below that, Jeremiah Love, who's a really good player from Notre Dame. Where did he transfer from? Wasn't he a transfer? Was he from Georgia Tech? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about somebody else. Ashton Gente at 3. And then you could see Jarquez Hunter, Tootin, and also K'Ron Lynch-Adams, all averaging about 8 times per 20 carries. They make somebody miss or they break a tackle.
Yeah,
Jeremiah Love has been at Notre Dame for 2 years.
Yeah, he's purebred Notre Dame.
Good.
So
I'd love to see more of that.
But, yeah, you know what? I was surprised that there were 2 people on this list ahead of Ashton. Like I mean, he also has more rushing yards than most of the teams in the country right now by himself.
Yep,
he is absolutely torching it. So to see that there's a stat that he's not leading in, although he's not far off from it, was kind of surprising to me.
Taj Brooks, I thought we might see Taj Brooks on that list. He has 551 yards, but again, Ashton Gente has 167 yards more than Caleb Johnson, who's really good from Iowa. Deuce Knight, the number 2 dual-threat quarterback in the country for 2025, has flipped from Notre Dame to Auburn. Auburn's class is highly rated. Hugh Freeze and Auburn lost to Oklahoma last week. I don't know what they're going to end up, what their record's going to be, but they're putting together one hell of a class, and the number 2 dual-threat quarterback in the country has flipped from Notre Dame to Auburn. There's that from Pete Thamel.
Well, they can certainly use him because what they have is definitely not up to snuff, and they definitely need a shakeup at that position moving forward if Hugh Freeze wants to be in Auburn, Alabama for a longer period in time. So, yeah, big loss for Notre Dame. It's actually been refreshing to not really care about recruiting all that much, especially during the season. I I just lost interest when it became such a daily thing. And, you know, not to be old man, but, like, I just don't care about top 12 lists, guys. I just don't give a crap because they don't mean anything. And I've seen too many times where a guy picks a team that wasn't even on his top 12 list after, like, months of accumulating the fan base love. Young people are smart. Get all that attention, all those big fan bases, all those social media followers. Go follow my Instagram, all this and that. Like, I don't care. I'm too old for it. And so with the transfer portal, it just feels like that's not something you have to be tabs on with nearly as much, unless you just love it. And if you love it, that's great. Like, I was that person at one point in time. I just am not that person anymore. And so this was definitely a big headline in that realm, but it is kind of nice to just have, like, the bigger story pop through every once in a while and not so much care about the day-to-day minutia of it all. But that's a big get for Hugh Freeze, and that's a big loss for the Irish. So we'll see what he can do with it. But, yeah, Peyton Thorne stinks, man. I mean, what a god-awful pick six, and just they've got to get better there. So this is an encouraging thing, especially after last weekend for Auburn fans.
Well, 2 weeks ago, Hugh Freeze said it's all the quarterback's fault.
Oh, yeah.
He pulled a Jimbo. This is what this is called. It might wind up being called a Hugh because he raised this to an art form and threw both his quarterbacks under the bus, pulled them out, and threw them back under it again after it backed up. And then last week, clearly somebody went to Hugh and said, hey, you do know that this is your fault too, and you're the guy who gets to pick who our quarterback is for the most part.
You brought him here.
You brought him here. And so then he did the thing of like, well, we've got to put these guys in better positions to win and all that. Okay, Deuce Knight's the biggest get he's going to have, at Auburn if it works out. Now, look, Deuce Knight's already flipped his commitment once. There's no reason to think that he won't do it again. But if they can keep him there until signing day in December, then best of luck to you, Hugh.
It's a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
What positions with the name of Deuce Knight are you not allowed to play? That's a great name. That could be a
that's
running
one where
back.
You can play wherever you want to.
Yeah.
You're probably not a kicker.
You could run
you
for
can't be a
president
kicker
with
or a
name
punter,
like that, right?
You can be a great linebacker, defensive
Nose
end.
tackle?
You could be a Deuce Knight, yeah.
He would wear like number 6 or something like that. Like, what's the guy's name from Florida State in the NFL now? Verse?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You could
Deuce Knight. I love that name.
It's a great
Dave
name.
Portnoy, Michigan fan, alum. He's also in charge of Barstool. Does a great job. He hinted at the fact that he would spend $1 million or more dollars to help Notre Dame or Michigan land a big-time transfer quarterback. Well, this story here, he wants the deal to be direct with Barstool, not with a collective.
Yeah,
He moves the needle, man.
He's mad at one of the businesses that is a part of the collective, so he's going to make the deal directly, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's how these things work. He says he's talked to Sherrone Moore, and he's dealing with that directly. So he says that Sherrone's told him a name, like here's the guy. Or in the future, when Sherrone tells him, here's the guy you go, then that's the guy he'll go call and try and make the deal with. So it's very classic Portnoy, and I hope it works out and that we can see how this does. But it does make you, again, I was just at SMU. I think there's like a bunch of 65, 75-year-old guys that are like, why is this we're happy it's legal, but come on, man.
To sit there and say that Sherrone Moore is going to tell him who to go get, that's where we are in college football.
It's got to be how like Galileo felt when everybody else is like, no, you're right, the earth is round.
Yeah.
Like that's no. Yep. I'm sorry about the whole heretic thing. We shouldn't have done that.
So Western Kentucky has these helmets. I initially thought that's some version of the Cincinnati Bengals, right? It's not. But that Paul, you even went on Twitter to beg, please send them one of these helmets to us to put in the studio.
Why did you think it was a Bengals helmet?
When I first saw it, I just, for some reason, with that black stripe, not the eyeballs, but the color reminded me of the Bengals. But it's not even that color of the Bengals, but it looked like that when I first saw it.
Okay, Emery, I want you to clip this and tweet it at WKU Football when we're done. I am willing to dress up as the Hilltopper, whatever you want me to do, so that we can put one of these on our gorgeous set here with the other helmets. We have lots of helmets. I now feel our set is incomplete without one of these.
Yeah, Garrett, can you do a wide shot of the studio?
Yeah,
there
look,
we
there's
are.
helmets.
There we go.
We've got helmets over there.
Yeah.
We've got helmets over here. There's helmets all over the place. But I feel like this will never be complete until we have this helmet.
You are just
Look, I don't have shame. I'm fine. You guys tell me, you want me to body paint myself up red? I'm built like the Hilltopper anyway. Whatever it takes to get this helmet in the studio, within reason, I'll do.
all right. I'm not going to give
No,
you
like,
anything
I'm fine.
other than publicity. If we get the helmet, we'll put it up.
Yes.
We love it. We've got all of them. Not
We
just
would
Big
also
12. We got
we'd
helmets
also
from
have your
everywhere.
coach
Yeah.
and players on the show because we love doing that anyway, helmet or not. So, always been a big fan of the Hilltopper in general.
UT
My
Park
favorite
and let
mascot.
Paul Cook.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, UT. Greg, what did you think of the helmet? Anything?
Well, don't clip this and send this to Western Kentucky Emory. Yeah, no, I mean, that's cool. They definitely have a crazy mascot, and that's portrayed well with those crazy-looking eyes on the side of the helmet. But, yeah, it doesn't really do much for me. It's not my favorite, but, yeah, it looked cool in the studio. So if they want to contribute to our collection here, and I always have a permanent presence in the studio, then, yeah, by all means, send Paul your goods, and we'll pay you back somehow.
You know why they're called the Hilltoppers?
Because they're on the top of a hill.
Yep, sits atop a hill 232 feet above the Barron River flowing through western Kentucky's home city of Bowling Green. So there we are with that. So western Kentucky, if you look at the mascot, he's got those eyes. That's kind of what they're doing here. Well done. Good luck. Have fun. Man, they threw for a lot of yards when who was the quarterback, Craig, that won the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award? You remember?
Bailey Zappi.
Yep, Bailey Zappi was fantastic to watch. So thank you to Paul for bringing up
which
the
was
helmet.
the offense ran by Zach Kitley, who's at Texas Tech, and that's where they put up all those big numbers with Bailey Zappi, and that's what
Here we go.
I'm sure attracted Joey McGuire, along with the Texas connections and all that, but that type of offense. So, yeah, that's where my knowledge of Western Kentucky mostly stems from.
I have been in the
Bailey Zappi currently on the Chiefs practice squad, actually.
What's that?
He's with the Chiefs right now on the practice squad.
I have been in the chat for just a couple of seconds here and there. I wanted to respond to Katie Rader when we mentioned Texas Beef House and their live auction. Oh, by the way, it goes until 6 o'clock tonight. You have 2.5 hours left for that. And I went in there and made a bid on a couple of Wagyu ribeyes. He said, would you mind asking Samantha Duvall about having some of those packages in the live auction as mini packages? In other words, a combination of a few things. They have a little bit of that when it comes to a kind of a 3 different types of meat product, beef for Mexican type meals. But Samantha said they tried that, and the reaction from most of the people was that they would rather just have everything singularly. Now, they have ground beef with hamburger patties too, but I wanted Katie Rader to let you know I did ask her about that, and they're having a live auction that goes on at this particular time. All right, now, we'll hear from Travis Hines. He'll join us. Also today, Ahmad Dixon, former Baylor safety. He is being inducted in high school, his old high school, Midway High School, just south of the part of Waco, and also being a part of that Big 12, the celebration at the end of the year, when Baylor will celebrate their Big 12 championships in 2013 and also 14.